So, all right. Wow. So yeah, I'm up early because a lot of energy this morning, a lot of energy last night. Um, we're gonna have a storm today. It's gonna be a little bit cooler. So we had our warming trend this last few days, and now it's going to be cooler. So we're gonna have marginal risk of impending storms, which means that yes, cold and hot meet together, and then you get energy. And so, yeah, this morning, actually last night, while I was just snoozing on and off, listening to so many things, listening to history on YouTube, listening to biographies, listening to weather reports. I mean, nothing's off the table. I'm just now a voracious taker of knowledge, a voracious eater of knowledge. And data. And I know what I was raised with. I know what was the gifts that were given to me by my mother, and I really appreciate that, Mother. Thank you for the gift of academics. Thanks for the gift of being beautiful. Thanks for the gift of formidability. I don't know if that's a word. Thanks for the gift of just intense meeting my own objectives. Now, I know you didn't give me all of it. Some of it was just pure survival from Vietnam, wanting to live and doing everything you can to live. And that's built into war and people who survive war. The commitment to live is why people who come from war are desirable for those who want to use them for innovation, because they have to tap into that level of strength, of survival and strategy. Okay, so to pick up where we left off yesterday, biological, cultural, and ideological imperialism is now self-induced. Well, what does that mean? Because people are asking to be owned by somebody. So imperialism used to be, it might still be on some level, but the larger global picture, imperialism used to be going into countries and colonizing them. Okay, we've done that. It's kind of still going on. We haven't pulled out of every place. Okay, who's we? British Empire, the American Empire, whatever. But right now, let's just say the West. Biological, cultural, and ideological imperialism is now self-induced, which means you're asking the medical holistic system to colonize you with their methodologies. You're asking your friends and family to keep reinforcing being owned by somebody else, being influenced by somebody else, not really thinking for yourself. And even if you think you're thinking for yourself, you're still following somebody else and parodying their words. You haven't developed most people out there, because they're taught by somebody. They're taught by somebody. Now, I understand paraphrasing, because paraphrasing gets the ideas in your head, but then how do you then evolve the ideas and still have the same or opposite intention or outcome? Well, you can only go one of two places. You can follow somebody's lead, or you could follow them and convert their information and make it the exact opposite, still using their information. So, but that would take someone who has the intention to sell something, has an idea to sell, has something to say. But if it's just doing the same thing other people are doing out there, then you're just going to either reject and resist my information, or you'll use my information to pad your own situation and maybe change a few words. Okay, so ownership, imperialism, colonizing. See, when I released my demons the last 7 years, and you saw me release the demons, yeah, it's pulling out the crap, it's coughing, sneezing, blowing your nose, because that's all trauma. What do you mean trauma? That's all memories. Everything in your colon that's driving you insane, giving you cancer, disease, and chronic illness. It's trauma. It's somebody else's programming. It's memories. Okay? People hold so much memories in their colon, they hold so many memories in their cells, so much trauma, so much degradation. And so you've been colonized. When you think about it, most people who are believing they should die someday and who are fighting cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders, they are colonized by trauma. And trauma runs them. Trauma runs them. And when trauma runs them, you're speaking now to people who are in specific states of existence of dealing with the trauma and compensating or overcompensating for it, or trying to push it down some more and channeling that trauma through whatever means the system has given them. And the system will give you anything they want as far as licenses to go and help destroy somebody else. So some people channel that trauma into destruction masked with, I'm saving you from the pain and suffering that I felt. And so here is this, this, and this to help you save yourself from pain and suffering. In actuality, you're helping people pass away just like you. Okay, so that's being colonized by somebody else's trauma that was passed down to you, and you're just passing down the way to alleviate trauma. Not deal with it and face it and release the demons and build yourself up again. No, people have been colonized with the intention to take away people's lives systematically, because the trauma is so great, not only in them, but in everyone around them. That's why everyone is suffering right now, because they have trapped the trauma. They have been colonized by the traumatic imperialists of these microbes that have taken over them. And then it does translate in diagnosable conditions and cancer, disease, and chronic illness. And so right now, no one is forcing anything onto anyone. No one is putting their hands on you or anyone else. I mean, if they are, then you call the police, because that's violence, domestic violence. That's not okay. If you are resisting someone who's doing nothing to you, you are tapping into your imperialistic ways of colonizing people, places, and themes and things, and trying to convert them into something that they haven't done shit to you, but you're trying to resist them and tell them that they're hurting you, but they're not. You just think they are. And so then you're going to actually be the one to lob the first grenade. That's psychological warfare, when you get someone to act, to throw the first punch. And that's what happens out there in the playground. Someone's like, hey, they're antagonizing someone, and they throw the punch, and then who gets in trouble? Not the antagonizer, so to speak. It's the one that threw the punch. But that's psychological warfare, goading someone into throwing the first punch, so then they are held accountable and be the one to be suspended or go to jail or something like that. But system has sort of, well, they have said, okay, you can't say these type of words. I'm not saying excuses for someone to go fly off the handle, but you don't say certain words that will goad someone into violence, because there are many trigger words and things that are not allowed to be said, because even words can be very violent. But if it comes down to what someone says and you can't prove what they said, but someone threw the punch, then yeah, the system doesn't allow anyone to use violence. Okay? And so you're tapping into your imperialistic ways of colonizing people, places, and themes, and trying to convert them. And if you have veterans in your family, they have been trained to do that, and they've trained you to do that. Okay? And so what I said my last video was from conscription and imperialism to voluntary sacrifice. And that's where war has been going ever since the Vietnam War. Because you go from before the Vietnam War, then was all the other wars, and there was the 1860s Revolutionary War. There was so much conscription. But the 1960s was the last time they actually conscripted people to go to war. Then it became a psychological war, and then you voluntarily went in because you're reacting to something that was perceived as an act of war upon you or your country, and people get radicalized. Patriotism. I read in this book, Prairie Fire, that how they get people to conscript themselves into war and take down other people. It is through patriotism, nationalism, politics, religion, and science. Those are the main acts of war against other people, because you're taking a side, you're resisting somebody, you've been given an enemy, you've been given a savior, and then it's who is going to resist each other the most. That's how, when I was studying the binary argument a couple years ago, back in 2020, and even before that, and I'm writing about just, for and against and all the different opposing sides, Democrat, Republican, on, off. I mean, just every binary argument, positive and negative, hot, cold. Yeah, it's a war of resistance. It's a war of resistance. It's been embedded, antibiotic, probiotic. It's been embedded into your culture, into your politics, religion, science. America was built on war. Okay? We're only 247 years old. We have been built on war. Again, politics, religion, and science dogmas was built on the very nature of war and mutually assured destruction. And when you realize that's what it is, and then most of everybody has veterans in their family. Most everybody has somebody that they respect for their service to their country. Okay? And if you don't subscribe to honoring veterans, if you don't subscribe to that, then that's an act of war on your country, according to the patriots. And so right there, it's like, no matter what stand you take, and you take a stand for something or against something, you are declaring war. And that was something that I had to learn the last 7 years. When you have war built into you, and you also have trying to save people built into you, it's very difficult to kick, because the saviors, when you think about it, from The Walking Dead, they're like imperialists. They have to take over and try to save you to death. That's what I dealt with when I'm getting my information out, and I'm getting nasty emails, getting nasty messages, getting nasty everything. Imperialists have to tell you and have to convert you and force convert you by all means possible. And when they're trained in that, in the military, then even though they can't use what they did in the military on civilians, then it's the psychological operations that come into play. If you can't use violence, then it's bullying someone. Then it's really putting the pressure on, or excommunicating somebody. Freezing them out of social relationships because you have not fallen in line, you have not been converted to an ideology that most people, if not all people, accept and honor. And so when I realized that was what's going on, and even myself trying to get people to save themselves, because even then saying, hey, you got to save yourself, that's me still trying to force convert people to value life. If people don't value life and value strategizing to save their life, knowing there's indicators, you can't tell them. You can't force them to save their own life, because even that right there is still a manipulation. So what does it all come down to? It comes down to presenting the information and giving people choices, and that's it. Though I do now just say stuff on my Facebook, I just get I don't say disgust, but I get my frustrations out. I get like, oh my God, I can't believe they haven't made a change. I can't believe they haven't. And that's all you could say. You can't go to them and be like, hey, why don't you move? That's not my place to say that. So the war has evolved from conscription to now voluntary service to conscript yourself into war. And then I've now evolved it and realized that this book, and I don't know, see, here's the thing. Who wrote this? Well, let me see. Well, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, they sisters and brothers. I guess, yeah, Bernadette Dorn, Bill Ayers, Jeff Jones, Jelia Sojourn. I guess they wrote this. Okay? They wrote this book, Prairie Fire, which is the Communist Manifesto from back when they were resisting the government. And when you think about it, it is a playbook on how to integrate yourself into the population and cause chaos within. Okay? Cause chaos within. And you're like, wow. So then you take that violent way of inserting yourself into different areas that people are not aware of, and you kind of like invisible and using maybe physical tactics as well as psychological tactics, and even, fire tactics. And you take that and turn it into then teaching children how to do stuff and say stuff and how to get your point across by all means necessary, using force without using force. And then how do you embed people into families, and how do you embed people into, well, then it's using the medical holistic energy healing world and mischaracterizing or characterizing certain things that people don't want to feel, and then how can you give them something to take away their pain, to take away their suffering, when you know that maybe you don't know, maybe the system knew, who knows, I don't even know what people knew, what people didn't know, but as soon as you apply so many antibiotics, you can destroy someone. So you give them a little bit of antibiotics over time, eventually they get destroyed. Who taught us that? Well, we can go back to Imhotep 2600 BC, and then the whole lifespan of people. And why is there a lifespan of people? Because they're taking antibiotics. They're mitigating pain. They have been maimed and they've been traumatized through war, through violence, through so many different things. And so now we're in a new world, but the old world has to be washed away. All the people who have been damaged by so many things and they can't come back from it, and they're taking people down with them through love and hate and force and all that. And you're not supposed to do that. Okay, as far as force, then the system can't go and change every single buddy out there. They can't force convert all of you, so then they change the environment. Okay, the war is fought in a different way. You can't do World War II again. So I'm going through my timeline from the most current, from the oldest, from yesterday, all the way up to this point. All right, so, you can follow along if you have a computer or a phone or whatever. But I said pandemics are not spontaneous. The laws of motion speak to an aggressive catalyst-like energy frequency. When people are subject to aggressive frequencies, it triggers the immune system to release demons held at bay from remedies and drugs. And then you get a Pandora's box opening up in conjunction with all the public health therapies adding to the cesspool of microbial imperialism. So when you think about therapies, that's somebody inserting themselves into you, into your body, mind, and spirit, okay? You think about therapies, and they are common during the way you think, the way your immune system works. I mean, it's not like nothing is poison. It's all FDA approved and sanctioned by the medical holistic system, and they've done all their double-blind studies. However, if you don't know how to release the demons that get developed from the therapies, okay, and what are demons? All relative to how you perceive the outcome of your therapies, then you'll be subject to whatever someone has embedded into your body, into your mind, and in your spirit. And I will tell you, religion and politics and science have found a way to colonize people's body, mind, and spirits. Now, some people just focus on the therapies that are the public health therapies and just blame those. Though, yes, that may be a factor. However, it's not just the public health therapies that people need to be focusing on. It's also people's ways of reacting to disease, reacting to discomfort, reacting to symptoms. And that actually compounds the issues. I mean, if you just did a therapy and just did whatever, and then you release the demons, those therapies would not then turn into something even far more aggressive. But those therapies are also representative of somebody in your environment that sneezed all over you and coughed all over you, or food that may have had bacteria that you weren't aware of, like any food is served in a restaurant. It's not like it's purified in the restaurant. People make your food. They carried it through the whole restaurant. The restaurant has a lot of people. People cough, sneeze, and blow their nose. It's like you have to be able to adapt to your environment. All right? But if you can't release those demons, whatever they are, it's not going to matter what you do or do not do. And so microbial imperialism equals cancer, disease, chronic illness, and even died suddenly. Because you're taken over by so many different microbes that are not allowed to be released because of your practices in the medical holistic energy healing world. You allowed your body to be taken over by aggressive influential microbes. Nobody is doing it to you. Because when you get a therapy, it's like walking into a crowded room. You're being exposed to something, whether it's direct inject or you're breathing in something, and there's therapies that you inhale stuff, okay? So it's no different than walking into a crowded room, right? Nobody's doing anything to you that you haven't already done to yourself. You force your body to take on so much more energy than you can handle. And then you voluntarily maim yourself through the medical holistic system by stopping the body from releasing, or you're getting surgeries, or you're getting Rife machines, or you're getting somebody messing with your body using massage therapy. People intend to stop their body from releasing symptoms. And so they are a veritable Garden of Eden, eating itself alive, like the snake eating its tail. People also intend to develop more demons using herbs, extracts, drugs, remedies, surgeries, and even all the ivermectins, making their demons stronger and more deadly. That is why your mom and dad and you are in pain. You resist evolution and release, and you are suffering for going against Mother Nature. And I said Ouroboros. And when people starve their body of food, they have no real strong defense system, and the microbes keep eating away at the person until they look like the crypt keeper, or the person becomes so large from all the growth and hormonal imbalances, their vital organs shut down from so much heat melting off the collagen, turning into gelatin, which weighs more. Okay, so pandemics are not spontaneous. There's energy. There's action, reaction, action, reaction. Where did it originate? Well, we know there's so many things going on. How do you know where anything originates? Really, it's been going on. Okay, the system has found ways. I mean, man, when you think of man, no matter what he does with his job, with the military, with his just everyday life, he influences the weather. He influences the energy. And when you can see a pattern of 7.9 billion, 8 billion people to projected 12.9 billion, regardless who you think is commandeering the weather and making it be more aggressive, or you're seeing a pattern of over time, when you don't do anything to redirect what's going on, the outcome is going to be all out existence. I mean, all out, what is it? All out extinction. Jesus. So what is man doing? The military, HARP, CERN, and Wi-Fi, and all that HARPs, they are fast forwarding what would already have happened anyways, but doing it in such a controlled way and giving people the options. How are they going to survive it? Because when you don't know, when you're stuck in your little homogenized world, okay, and you're, like, let's say, in Canton, Ohio, and you don't know how big the world is out there. I mean, you do, but you don't. You don't have a bird's eye view of the ramifications of 8 billion people reproducing 15 kids each every year, how that's going to multiply exponentially in the next 15 years. And will there be enough earth? Will there be enough water? Will there be enough of anything? Will there be wars? Will there be people, harming each other? So the system already projected and seen what would happen if they didn't go and intervene. And so when you think about it, they've just preempted what was already going to happen anyways by fast forwarding time. So when you fast forward and accelerate the environment, then instead of allowing people to get used to disease and then keep procreating more kids, then they add more energy and cause you to feel stuff more and be more, and then it's all physics. It's like it's like fast forwarding through a movie. If you can handle, if you can read the lips really fast, but you'll miss things if you fast forward, right? So when you're just playing a regular movie on the regular speed, then you catch the information, you develop ideas, you get the picture, you get the gist. But then when you fast forward, then you miss so much stuff, and then it's like it's like you didn't watch the movie, and it's like you're dead because you're not developing anything because you can't see it, it's not there. You're not making any kind of assertions. You're not getting the storyline. You're not getting exposed to anything that's being told to you because you fast forward it. That's what the system is doing. They're fast forwarding your life right now and making you experience things earlier and forcing you to figure out how you're going to do it. Are you going to resist and destroy yourself, or are you going to not resist and release the demons and eat food and pull out the shit and survive? And so Yeah, I understand what the system is, what the system is doing. Oh my God, I know, I get it. All right, and so pandemics are not spontaneous. There are catalysts, but there's a reason why. Am I justifying and licking the boots? No, I'm just understanding what the deal is, because again, when you're in a town like Canton, Ohio, and you slow down the atmosphere and everyone's having 1 billion children, imagine Canton, Ohio being from 70,000, 80,000, 100,000 to then in the next 5 years 200,000. And then it won't be Canton, Ohio. It would be it's Canton, Ohio, but now instead of being maybe 1 square mile, pretend, I'm not saying it is, it would now be 5 square miles. And then it'd have to be then expanded to then, 25 square miles and 50 and then all of a sudden you see the concentric circles having to go out further and further and further and further over time. And so then you look at population growth because of that, because you're at a slower frequency and people are able to get over their diseases easier and still have a great life, but then they're also procreating because you've been trained to have a family. You've been trained to have a family, have a bunch of kids, and then people are having a bunch of kids sooner, and all of a sudden now you have, instead of 5 people, now you have 155 people, and wow, it's doubling and tripling and quadrupling, and there's got to be a balancing force. And so then your government is a balancing force. They're now fast forwarding everything. You still have a great life, but can you handle the speed of which the life is going? That's what you're dealing with. And so pandemics are not spontaneous. They're forcing you to evolve, and can you handle the evolution? And so I said denial equals resistance. Resistance is futile. Because you don't believe in the sun does not mean it won't still stop shining, because it will still keep shining regardless of your beliefs around the sun. All right, just because you don't believe we're in a scale down and you think Jillian's a fucking whacked out conspiracy theorist and she's wasn't raised right and she's all psycho like Charles Manson. All right, denial is still resistance. Resistance is futile. It literally is futile. I mean, you have the choice to deny what's going on. That's fine. You go about doing your thing and do all your traditions and go to your parties and go travel. And then you hope you don't get caught up somewhere. You hope that you survive your traditions. But then you already expect to die anyway. So it's just a matter of time when people say, well, God's on my side. God will arrive just in time. That's how people justify not changing, because God will always be there for them. And if it's their time, it's their time. Well, that's great. That's great. That's psychological programming. That's religion. And so children become conditioned to be imperialists and destroy through resistance, and or become conditioned to be colonized by politics, religion, and science to the point of destruction. That's the British Empire training Americans to take the fall and be the scapegoat. Because I had somebody from Indonesia that was on my Facebook, and I bantered back and forth, and he would antagonize me here and there. And then he said he didn't like Americans. It's all Americans' fault. I'm like, are you serious? It's not our fault. We were trained by the people who trained our people. Who trained our people? Well, we're only 247 years old. We had people who colonized America from England, from the United Kingdom, from all over the fucking world. Okay? Don't hate us because we were children of people who needed to colonize, and then we were taught a certain way, just like your parents taught you a certain way. You can redirect from your parents, but who originally taught you is your parents taught you whatever they taught you. And who taught your parents? And who taught your parents' parents? And who taught your parents' parents, 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 parents? And it goes all the way back to then 1776. Who taught George Washington? Well, somebody over there in England. Somebody over there in Great Britain. Okay? And so children become conditioned to be imperialist and destroy through resistance, and or become conditioned to be colonized by politics, taking left or right, or resisting. And religion, I don't care what kind it is, and science to the point of destruction. And so all relationships are training grounds for imperialism and colonization. Who has more pull influence to the point of mutually assured destruction. Resistance equals mutually assured destruction. I'm done with all the wars. This is where I'm finally starting to give up my arms of trying to convert people into saving themselves. This is me. Now, I mean, I'm still going to give people clues on how they can strategize them leaving places like Florida. Like, I'm not going to not give people clues. I mean, you literally have to do it yourself. You're the one that knows what you can afford as far as insurance policies. You're the one that's going to have to strategize how you're going to leave, how you're going to do whatever. But I still will give people clues on how they could potentially, because it's fun to play a game. When they're playing cat and mouse with, are you going to get hit by a hurricane or are you not going to get hit by a hurricane? And you know eventually it's going to hit you on some point. And you've seen the maps, you've seen the indicators, but when is it going to, and when should you move? Well, it's not about a matter of when, it's like, it's a matter of, do you have the means to? Do you have enough strategy? I mean, if I was living in Florida right now, and let's say I'm on a pension, and I have a few dogs, let's just say that, and I'm living somewhere in a nice house with a few dogs, and that's about it. And I know there's other hurricanes going to come through, and I eventually know I'm going to have to leave at some point, because I just can't live there. And I'm doing the J world, so I've released my demons. So I plan to live a long time, and I know I have to strategize my survival. So what I would do is I would be like, okay, I would figure out how much it's going to cost to ship myself and my dogs to somewhere up north and ride it out there when I hear that there's going to be something going on. And I'll take a plane early on. I don't care if it means it doesn't hit. If it doesn't hit, that's great. But I will have money to ship myself and my dogs to leave. And then when I come back and everything is devastated, then I have already a policy in place to cash out my home, and then buy a place somewhere up north, and then live out the rest of my life during this whole great reset up north. I'm not anywhere near the coast. Okay? So you can do it that way. Or you could just wait for something to happen and hope you survive. So anyways, I'm not really done just emoting about it, but I finally have surrendered and figured out that it's not going to matter what I say. But I still have to get out the trauma. And so I'm done with all the wars. Have fun resisting and denying what is in your face. I hope you survive all your wars. Because now, I mean, we've shown everybody, the whole conspiracy world has done the job of what the system wanted us to do. They wanted us to get the word out. They wanted us to make sure people were conditioned, even if they denied it. Because when you confirm or deny anything, when something is out there, confirming or denying, the system will say no, but it really means yes. But no matter what you confirm or deny, it's still the existence of, and it's a possibility, it is a consideration that is valid. And so, but that's kind of like a colonizing someone's brain when you put something out there that was never put out there before and they never heard it before. Then it's like colonizing someone's brain with information that now they have to go and figure out, is this information true? Let me go and do research and have it proved or be debunked. But no matter how much you think you can debunk something, you can debunk it. It just means it's your perception of how you think something is based upon your lifestyle and beliefs and what sources you have used. And everything is biased. Okay? And so what is that? Well, when you think about guerrilla warfare tactics and you think about people strategically placing themselves in your brain, in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, and this is done through Sun Tzu, The Art of War. That's why I Googled what guerrilla warfare tactics are, and it's not an organized form of fighting. It's anarchic, and it's like surprise ambushing people through politics, religion, and science. And so the Weather Underground, which were the people that were very strategic, using violence to get their point across, but it's illegal to do that, was strategically placing themselves inside a system to develop aggressive physical destruction. The evolution of that was a psychological war. That's the whole I can't confirm or deny, or I confirm or I deny. When you confirm or deny or defend or say no, I mean, maybe the perception that person is projecting onto you is not your perception, but the energy is still exists, but how you perceive it, that's not, you don't agree with that person's perception of it. Even though there's energy, how I perceive it and how another person perceives it, it doesn't even matter. The energy is still there. How do we choose to deal with the energy that's there? How do we choose to characterize it? So the evolution of that, of the underground, whether underground strategically placing themselves inside the system to develop aggressive physical destruction, the evolution of that was a psychological war, getting into people's heads, using fear as a tactic, using religion and politics and science as a mechanism for developing unwavering belief systems to destroy people through legalized protocols. And people will still love you for it. How many people love their mothers and she has given you so many antibiotics? How many people love their doctors and they've done so much surgery on you, cutting into you, traumatizing your body, your mind, and your spirit? How many people love their pastors and their priests and their rabbis, and they've gotten into your head to say you should do this, this, and this, and this, and this is how you run a family, and this is what you should do for disease and cancer? I mean, that's the thing. That's a psychological war when people that you love and respect are willing to carry out the agenda because that's what they were taught, how you should deal with disease and cancer and people who resist. Look at the herbalists selling you all of their prescription drugs and remedies, all FDA approved relative to the intention. Look at the surgeons, friends selling you into harming yourself through butchery, oncology, radiation, chemotherapy, cannabis. The system got into your head and they made you believe shit. And they use the people you love and respect the most to do it. So yeah, you would never say, no, mom, I'm not going to take that Triaminic. No, mom, I'm not going to take that. No, when you're a kid, you're supposed to do whatever your mom says. Your mom and your dad have colonized you. Your grandparents have colonized you. And when someone colonizes another nation, they intend to destroy the culture and convert people into a specific way. And eventually, when you believe in death, that's out of existence. And so then you're done. Once you've been colonized by the people you love the most, you're done. You can't resist that. How do you resist all the love and respect and the adoration you have for your professor, for your doctor, for your teacher, for your lawyer, for your friends, your family, the people that give you the distractions, the things that you desire the most? And so the system got into your head and they made you believe shit. And they use the people you love and respect the most to do it. You're done. They also made you believe there was an enemy or someone to resist. If you were selling herbs, you would resist and blame the pharmaceuticals. And since people did not understand biology and chemistry, and they always resisted symptoms, it was like taking candy away from a baby. You know how easy that argument is? Okay, take my herbs and extracts and tinctures because the pharmaceuticals are so poisonous. And then that's your argument. And then you as a tincture salesman, as an herbalist, know how to use that argument to then manipulate your friends into taking your stuff, which is really no different. Because when you think about the severity and the aggressiveness, yes, pharmaceuticals in a slower frequency environment are far more aggressive versus maybe an herb or an extract relative to how it was put together, a homeopathic remedy. But then you increase and accelerate the environment. Now those herbs and extracts and tinctures probably have the same kick as the pharmaceuticals in a slower frequency environment. And the pharmaceuticals are even more aggressive in this environment. But again, people, it's all relative. And so people don't realize that when they were against the pharmaceuticals in a slower frequency environment, taking herbs in a higher frequency environment has the same fucking intention and outcome. It's still antibiotic. You're still stopping the body from releasing. You're still holding on to the Garden of fucking Eden in your body. That's how physics have been used against people because people don't understand frequencies. They don't understand environment. All they understand is, I feel pain. What's out there to cure it? And I'll take it from the most beautiful, loving, and kind person ever. And then see, look at, there's so many beautiful women out there, and kind women giving you herbs and extracts, telling you they're going to save you. Jesus. That's the manipulation, when it's all around you. And then when you are so hot to trot and you're so hormonal, and guys who love beautiful women, and you have a beautiful woman selling them an herb and an extract and promises of whatever, the guys are done. Other women who want to be like other women, who look up to other women, and they're beautiful and educated and eloquent, and they're wearing all the right outfits and the right hair and the right skin and the right nails, and they're like, oh, I'll buy everything from you, and I want to be just like you. Now look at your friends selling you everything under the sun to take away your pain and suffering. It's all legal because it's the cumulative effect. And the system can say correlation does not equal causation, because it was years and years and years of you buying those herbs from your friends. You did it to yourself. That's the war front. You destroy yourself through legal remedies, literally legal remedies, voluntary imperialism. You allowed someone to own you. You allowed someone else to own you through love and hate. At the early stage in the armed and clandestine struggle, our forms of combat and confrontation are few and precise. Our organized forces are small. The enemy's forces are huge. We live inside the oppressor's oppressor nation. The nerve centers of the international empire, where the institution and symbols of imperial power are concentrated. The cities will be a major battleground for the overwhelming majority of people live in the cities. The cities are our terrain. And so that's the thing, is that they are now, the system is using their tactics to get into your head. And what do? They get into your family. They get to your friends. And they reward you. And so this was the playbook for the psychological war you are in right now. You couldn't play the violent game. Replace all the arms and guns and violent intention with concepts and belief systems and cult mentality. And of course, drugs and alcohol and fear, and most of all, sex. Colonizing people's body, minds, and spirits. Everything has to be intellectual and psychologically driven. And if you're not well equipped or aware or even care, because the almighty dollar is what drives you in being a savior in your religion, you will carry out the agenda, and they thank you for your service. Which is what I do, is for me, for my own understanding and improving myself, my own development. I do everything publicly because my parent cells represent. My juvenile cells will follow until they represent whatever they believe. What are my juvenile cells? Whatever it is that came through, like an antibiotic. It could be an herb or an extract, or not so much an extract, but it could be certain foods that will cause then growth. No big deal. And then my evolution. When I take on new information, like reading or discovering something, those are my juvenile cells representing now, understanding how guerrilla warfare works, how it's been used in a peaceful society that's at war with itself. Okay, and then it matures. Then my juvenile cells that take on new information, kept in line by my parent cells, then they mature, and then the ideas mature, and everything coalesces together, and then it becomes easier to talk about how all of this was put together. And so we are all our self-determining organisms. We follow, we lead, and we destroy or develop into what? Whatever you choose. You are being given a choice, so many choices. And so I said it is over for most people. So this is where I'm finally resigning to the fact that I have to accept the outcome for other people. I already know what my outcome is. I've saved myself. I'm in Ohio. The worst thing I'll deal with is tornadoes and storms, and maybe a lot of flooding if the rivers are overflowed or we have a huge deluge of water. I don't rule anything out. So it is over for most people. Hugs and good luck. I tried. And so I have a lot of people who have their own version of what is saving people. People think that they're saving people's souls through their religion. Okay. Other people think they're saving people from all the V's. Okay. Other people are saying they're trying to save people from the GMO and they're all into organic. Okay. We all have our version of what is saving somebody. And when people don't listen to us, then eventually we're going to have to give up trying to save other people and we have to save ourselves. And so I said, it's over for most people. Hugs and good luck. I tried. And where I'm coming from, really, when you think about it, is the Florida and the coasts. Because that's where I'm most concerned with. That's the most pressing. Is the fact that we have these hurricanes, and it's so early on in the season, and we had a devastation last year over there at Fort Myers. We had a devastation over here in the crook of Florida just recently. We could have another devastation in this same season. And so when people are just like a deer in headlights and they're hoping that Hurricane Lee doesn't hit them. And even if it doesn't hit them, they're going to wait for another one and hope again they don't get hit. And so that's what I'm saying. It is over for most people. Because they'll wait for something to happen. They'll wait for cancer to take them over. They'll wait for a hurricane to take them out. I get warnings of tornadoes. And there's nowhere really I can go now when you think about it. I'll just go into my basement and hope I survive a crazy ass fucking tornado. That's pretty much it. And so this is when I'm starting to surrender to the fact the reality is going to happen for a lot of people and there's nothing you can do. And so Asprey Michelle goes, I can identify. Absolutely she can. And Eileen Bear goes, yeah, I tried too. Absolutely she did too. And Stevie J, the same thing. We all, even though we're fighting different types of wars, and the same war, but different wars trying to save people from something. We all have an intention because we love humans. We needed to act and be like, dude, what's up? What's going on? Okay? Billy Batts says, okay, hang in there. Absolutely. Boz Myers, he's seen it too. Leon Littleeggs, yes, Janet Peterson. People who are in the activist world, even though activism is resistance, we had an intention. Can I say I'm an activist? I guess I could put myself in that position because I'm resisting people not saving themselves. And that in of itself is resistance. And so even though I really just, I'm all over the activist, dude, you're resisting, you got to assimilate. You still can't make activists assimilate. They're going to resist. So even I have to then look at what I'm doing. And so what I say to other people, and when I point at other people, I have a million people pointing at me, and they have every right to. And so I'm getting it. Believe me, it's hard. Okay, so psychological virtual guerrilla warfare. Trolls, fear, friends, family, authority, and even comedians. And of course, politics, all religions, and science dogmas. The death programming via absolution, dressed up as redemption, is guerrilla warfare tactics. When you feed the trolls or guerrillas, you entertain the guerrillas who will eventually dismantle your body, mind, and spirit if you allow them. I walked away from the war of resistance. But I still am, but I'm not. I'm now finally even just coming to terms with I can't even make people save themselves. Okay? Like you could anyways. Well, that's the thing. And so guerrillas always have time on their side to attack you virtually when the time is right, and they could use your mom, dad, sister, brothers, fear, and even friends to get to you. That is the art of war, using your children as leverage, using your animals as leverage. The system trained people very well, very well. Guerrilla, a member of a small independent group taking part in irregular fighting, typically against large regular forces. This small town fell to the guerrillas. Similar, freedom fighter, underground fighter, irregular soldier, irregular resistance fighter, members of the resistance, partisan, rebel, radical, revolutionary, revolutionist, terrorist, referring to actions or activities performed in an impromptu way, often without authorization. An adjective, guerrilla, guerrilla theater. Okay? And so when you think about it, we all have been trained in America and in the West to be guerrillas and to be imperialists, colonizing each other's body, mind, and spirit. And so then I said, the one thing I'm most proud of, the one thing that I took away from landmark education back in my 20s, I did 100% to the best of my ability. I gave it my all. I never gave up, and I never will give up on myself. But I did 100% what I was set out to do. Now it is time for me to write and observe whatever must happen. You all have access to the playbook, Prairie Fire, and my book. Okay, so my book tells you how to release the trauma, the demons of colonies, the grip that society had on you through your DNA, through the programming from your parents and your teachers and your doctors and your lawyers and the firemen and all the people out there that are reinforcing the programming. My book shows you how I release those demons so they're not controlling me anymore. They're not whispering in my ear to not do this or do this. And then this book tells you how they colonized you through guerrilla warfare tactics, through psychological programming, through your friends and your family. That's why I said family is the most dangerous, because they don't evolve. They reinforce each other's belief systems, and they take each other down with the ship, and they say God is in control. So why is it so dangerous? Because people say they want to live. They just don't want to die tomorrow, but they want to live. But in a higher frequency environment, in a very accelerated environment that's being fast forward as we speak, their life is going to be cut short. And do they realize this? And again, it's not for me to say, well, you should realize this, but then I'm now discovering how to say things. And so this is for my own personal and professional development. How do I write about what's going on as far as the frequencies and the new world we're entering into, which is fast forwarding the old world, which means kids are going to mature faster. Adults are going to die sooner. People's diseases will come up prematurely. What is that based on? The last world. And so if you want to slow down the aging process, if you want to slow down the death process and redirect, well, this is how I've done it. This is how what can be done for you, but you still have to then get out of harm's way. Okay, humans all want to save themselves and save each other in whatever ways that they think they want to do it in. Now you have to choose what way is going to be good for you. Do you want to save yourself religious-wise and be absolved and take Christ in your heart or anything else? Or do you want to find ways to release the demons so you can slow down the death process and even redirect and bring life back to your body and your mind and your spirit? And so you all have access to the playbook, Prairie Fire, and my book. And it's all very inexpensive. My next book will take some time for me to write. So 2030, that's about 7 years away. We have a lot of stuff to go through, and I have a lot to write about. And there's so much. And so, if I don't survive 2030 because of crazy ass storms and things like that, at least people have the option to release the demons. And that book is out there. And so if I don't survive to 2030, then it means that I succumb to something, whatever it is. And so I want to wait till 2030 and go through the 7 years of trials and tribulations and playing the Hunger Games. Because now we're entering into the game. If I'm writing right now and trying to get a book out, it's because it would be for all of you. I'm done now for all of you. Now I'm living for myself. Okay, I've spent 7 years writing 3 books. 2 books are on the market. One's an ebook. The other one's an ebook and a regular book. Okay, you have my first book and you have my last book. The other one, I just destroyed the other stuff. I just took it off out of the book thing. So I unless I re-upload it, they might charge me for it. So I'm gonna leave it alone. People need to see where I first came from, which was the whole exposing the lies, right? Candida. That's where I came from. And then where did I end up? Well, another arm of the Hydra. And whatever's in between is totally irrelevant. I eat all food, or release the demons, and I deal with whatever. And so that's the last book you need to have until 2030. Because now I'm in the Hunger Games. Now I am having to save myself and writing a book and being under the pressure to get it out within a year or 2 or whatever. I don't want to be under that pressure. I want time to think about stuff and go through the processes and experiences. And then I'll have a way to really position everything. And so my next book will take some time for me to write. I will still keep speaking, but I think I got to the root of it all. Self-imposed imperialism. and then using those tactics against your friends and family and clients. Self-imposed imperialism is allowing another person, place, or thing or entity to own you personally, your personal body, mind, and spirit, and then promoting to other people to give away their identity, their body, mind, and spirit for someone else to own, alter, and abuse for science, their enjoyment, or used in wartime scenarios, and then justify it. And so I'm anti-imperialist, and I own myself. And the Weather Underground was anti-imperialist, but they still declared war against the empire, and they resisted. And then the empire then said, okay, the more you resist, the greater the force that we're going to impose. And that's the thing. When I was a kid, it was a resistance. My mother put down rules. I resisted it, and I kept doing what I wanted to do, and she kept trying to do punishment, and it didn't work on me. Nothing fucking worked on me. And so then she finally had to let me just do what I wanted to do. And okay, and I did, but still, it wasn't going to work for any of us. So, but that's the thing. At some point, you just have to give up trying to force somebody into your way. You have to finally just give up and take care of yourself, and let the other person take care of themselves. And so, I don't want to convert anyone. I really don't want to. You have the information. I'm still going to have observations and make comments about people's choices, not personally, but then overall, a lot of people that make choices. And you have every right to say what you got to say about it without confronting them and making them bad or wrong, because it's difficult to watch your fellow man fall to things that they didn't have to fall to, but that's not for me to say. And so I'm anti-imperialist. I own myself. That's why I live in my own little island in my world. Most people around me are imperialistic, trying to take over people in body, mind, and spirit, belief systems, and drugs. That's why I like being on my own. People were trained to be imperialistic, and especially if you're a parent, you will justify your imperialistic ways. Okay? That's why I'm saying people don't really see it because they are imperialists. Having children, you have to force convert them. And so my book tells you how I released the colonization of the colony-forming units of trauma, stress, and somebody else's vision of who I am. Prairie Fire tells you how the system colonized your body, mind, and spirit without forcing you to do anything, without lifting up a single arm against you. War can be waged in so many ways: battle for the hearts and minds, and self-induced destruction. Remember, Iraq, they're dropping leaflets and pamphlets. They're trying to get to the hearts and minds. That's what George Bush said. Well, that's the same thing with us. The system got to the hearts and minds of all of you. And they used your friends and family to give you antibiotics, surgeries, supplements, detoxes. All right, let me read this. This is interesting. I'm drinking coffee. So that's why I say it's over with. We tried. Some people are no match for the environment and climate change and whatever else they blame it on. No matter what, they could not handle the conditions, whatever it was. Click on the picture. And so I said, so sad. Well, no, someone said, so sad for my niece. She's currently away on a gap year after finishing high school or finishing school last year. Her best friend was studying first year medicine. She apparently wrote an exam on Friday, and everyone said she was fine and in great spirits. She was admitted to a hospital with breathing difficulty late Saturday and died Sunday afternoon. She had very advanced ovarian cancer that had spread to her lungs, so she died less than 24 hours after diagnosis. Apparently, until this weekend, she had no symptoms, except she had some slightly worse than usual period pains a few months back. Is this really cancer? Or are they using cancer as a cover-up? She was 18, absolutely devastating. Yeah, it's cancer. But in this environment, cancer is fast-moving. And if you don't have a strong immune system to release the demons, that cancer is like water rushing into a town like a tsunami and overtakes the person. And so I said, regardless, whatever you blame people's conditions on, in this environment, things happen extremely fast. Remember, we're in a fast-forward environment. And so that's why kids are maturing faster. People are aging quicker. People are getting diagnosed quicker, and they're not allowed to have too much time in between a diagnosis and their death. And so you're not going to have cancer. You're going to have death. You're going to have a diagnosis and death. You won't have the luxury to battle cancer. That's what I said before a couple months back, or even a couple years ago. I said there's going to be a time would be no cancer because you'll just die suddenly because you won't have the time to intervene. You won't have time to do that. And so John was saying cancer is unutilized life. And I said, or drowning in life. They're deluged like a flood. And then Masa was saying, this person most likely took the COVID, VACCINE to be in med school, closed system to DNA manipulation done. Now that was very, very strategic of her to use some of my language with her assessment. And that's fine. That's what I'm saying. People can use my language to pad their arguments. But however, I said, Masa, that's not the only factor, my friend. Many people did not take the VACCINE and they're suffering some major conditions. You got to look at this globally, not very narrowly. I'm not saying it's not a factor. Everything is a factor. Even not being VAXXED is a factor. It's people's predisposed issues and also having a closed system. Even the unV'd passed away because in this environment, it's very aggressive, very aggressive. And we all know that V's don't save everybody. Okay? And so then, Masa goes, Jillian, in America, all college made it mandatory overall. I've been seeing so many deaths this summer. One thing they all had in common was a V. I said, Masa, I know. But many people in college who had to get the V did not die either. We can't just focus on the V's. You're becoming too narrow around this. Frequencies, major climate change, frequency. V's can't be the only culprit. If V's were deadly, everyone would die. Question is, if they didn't get the V, would they have survived? At this point, it's moot. Then she goes, well, then it's a slow situation. Then eventually they will die from that V. It just hasn't happened yet. Well, that's just like saying jelly juice is so deadly. If they don't die today, they'll die tomorrow. But if they're already going to feel like they already believe they should die someday, and they're taking all their antibiotics and all their pills and their powdered supplements and detoxes and surgeries, of course they're going to fucking die. Are you going to blame the water because everyone drank water? Are you going to blame jelly juice because they drank jelly juice? Are you going to blame the V's because they took a V? Are you going to blame GMO because they had GMO and they died? I mean, where does it end when you're blaming one fucking argument, regardless of what it is? When does it end? Okay? And so, if V's were deadly, everyone would die. Question is, if they didn't get the V, would they have survived? At this point, it's moot. They probably wouldn't survive because they already felt like they had a weak immune system, or they wouldn't have taken a fucking V to begin with. Okay? This is where the circular reasoning comes into play. And people have a lot of circular reasoning. So then you have to take it a step further. What if it wasn't just the V's? What if the combination of climate change, frequency acceleration, on top of all different therapies, not just the V's, contributed to the person's clogged system, dying suddenly or not surviving cancer? That's why the system gave you that concept of correlation does not mean causation, because there are so many factors that contribute to the end result. We all want to blame something, but the responsibility is the person and whoever raised that person, and then the system supporting the protocols out there regardless of what they are. The system supporting symptom mitigation. And so cannabis could be a contributing factor. All the different detoxes and supplements and ivermectins and all the surgeries and all the ayahuasca and all the illicit drugs out there are contributing factors of why people do not survive their diagnoses. And it could be even predisposed, something their parents gave to them. Okay? And so we can't be that, I mean, we can be narrow if we want to be, but then you're missing a whole lot more that you could be informing people of. Because when you're distracted only by one thing, remember, we were like, oh, don't be distracted. What are they distracting you from? The whole anti-V is a distraction from so many other things. And when you're so distracted and so tunneled and narrow, you will miss it's like having your blinders on. But Moss has been around this information for a long ass time. She's been around this information. She's been around. We've fought a few times because we've had difference of opinion, and I still fucking respect her. She's a good lady. She means so fucking well, and she's awesome. Okay, so we have a difference of opinion. No big deal. She has helped me get to this place where I'm at now. Okay? And so Masa goes, Jillian, they're most likely marching at a slower pace, but they are well on their way. I give it 8 years or less, we'll see more issues. Well, of course, when you have climate change too, increasing the weather, acceleration, of course, more therapies. I don't care what it is, not just the V's, but also all the ivermectins, all the antibiotics, all the cannabis, all the natural remedies, all the surgeries. Yes, absolutely. I totally would agree. I wouldn't say it's just the V. I'd say it's everything that people are using against their body's immune system so they don't have to feel pain of release. But she goes, but it's my opinion. Absolutely. She's fucking entitled to it. Many factors, but most likely the DNA manipulation. I've seen about 5 heart-kidney combos, kidney failure, double brain tumors, tons of blood clots, strokes from 33 to 65. The only common thread was the V's. Well, if that's what you're going to focus on, absolutely. But if that's how she chooses to focus, that's fine. But then I want to take it further. What about all the other remedies and surgeries and food mitigation? People are afraid of food. They can't eat milk, meat, cheese, eggs, fruits. I mean, a lot of factors. And then Audrey goes, Jillian, exactly. I know far too many people who have several. Most of my family members have had several. Some are in the 70s and they are all still there. The V is just one piece of a very big picture. And I said, Masa, I know your politics. I know your spiritual beliefs. I know your science dogmas. Because everyone drinks water doesn't mean they died from water. That was just the argument you focused on. I said to Audrey, there are so many other factors. There are so many other factors. And if you had the V and maybe you released the demons, you wouldn't die from them. In other words, you get the V and respond to symptoms of the V in a very different way, you could survive. But people don't think that way. They think just taking something or not taking something is the only way you will survive. And that's very black and white. People are not taking into account so many other factors. And it does not consider any other factors in the world when it's so black and white. It's very narrow thinking. It's very dangerous to be narrow thinking. Because now you got to consider the environment. And so Audrey goes, unfortunately, no, they don't. It's like hitting your head against the wall at this point. People have made up their minds. And I said, yeah, right. And that's fine. That's why it's kind of moot about everything. You can't say people are from whatever we think is the demon. And so we just represent. Even if we survive our lifestyle and belief systems, it's because we did it for ourselves. It's not me or you that saves someone or harms someone. People will harm or save themselves. The outcome was their intention. Even if it wasn't, they didn't have what it would take to take it to the next level to save themselves. In my opinion, when people have put so many miles in the medical and the holistic system, it won't matter what they do if they don't change the way they do things today. And even if they do change, could they handle the changing? It's painful to face your demons. It's easy to look for something to save you or not save you and then blame. What an interesting world we live in. Okay, so that's the whole V anti-V argument that I've finally put to rest because it doesn't even matter at this point. What you say or do not say to people about stuff, it's not going to matter. They will have to figure out how they're going to save themselves. And that could mean they could spiritually save themselves. They take Christ in their life and they're okay with dying. Okay. We thank you for your service. So finally, I get an article with somebody saying, this is from Business Insider. Someone said, I regret doing OnlyFans when I turned 18. My subscribers pushed my boundaries, sent degrading messages, and probably had her do things that were very compromising. And yeah, so let me see. So she goes, I regret doing OnlyFans when I turned 18. People treated me like an object and the money just wasn't worth the degradation. And so she said, when I turned 18, I did something I thought would help me feel empowered as a woman. But instead it left me traumatized. I joined OnlyFans. I only spent 3 years as an OnlyFans creator, but looking back, those were the most miserable years of my life. 3 years? Oh my God. At the time, joining OnlyFans felt like a natural progression. I was already posting bikini pictures on Instagram. So I didn't really feel like there's a big difference between posting photos there and posting them on OnlyFans. So there's a gateway drug, is showing your body to everybody, showing your behind, showing your boobs to everyone. And then what's the next thing? Well, why not show everything else, right? And take it a step further until all of a sudden you have taken it so far you can't come back from it. That's what these girls are facing when they're only hair and skin and nails and openings and boobs, and that's it. And so I saw other creators talking about how being an OnlyFans creator was empowering and a way to be in charge of your own life. That all sounded good to me, but the reality of what actually happened was nothing like that. Yeah, there's freaking predators out there. Women, girls who were raised by mothers who taught them how to do sex and everything else and be a wife and a mother and a sex object. Yeah. I feel sorry for these girls that are hot, because that's all they're going to do is they're going to figure out, yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad someone wrote that, because now you can see that was bred from the 1960s. That was bred from Larry Flynt and Playboy. What did I write about that? Hold on. I said it's time for women to redefine their place in the world. They don't have to be just lips, hair, skin, nails, and openings. They have the right to use their brain, not just the vertical bar like the pole, okay? And they don't have to be just a baby maker or a first wife or a concubine. The manipulation of women is using the term sexual female empowerment. No, you're just an object to somebody else. You're not human to them. That was how Hugh Hefner and Larry Flynt sold Playboy and Penthouse to all the playmates. Aggressively sexual men victimizing women through psychological manipulation. And when you're 18 years old, even 25 years old, you don't have enough life experience to realize what's going on. You will be exploited in your 20s. Most women, if not all of them, have been exploited, groomed by their mothers, peers, and even parents. Because again, look at what women and mothers post on their Facebook, their daughters, in hardly anything. All right, so this is where I'm like still agonizing over the fucking hurricane. So even if Hurricane Lee misses Florida, are you going to move? Or will you wait for the next one and hope? It doesn't even matter if Hurricane Lee hits you or not. It will eventually. And you still won't move, right? That's why we're in a great reset. It's like the person sitting in the middle of the highway and hope a car doesn't hit them. Like waiting for cancer. Like waiting to get hit by a car. Really? And now we have all of the Atlantic seaboard, eastern seaboard, under some kind of terror. It's not just Florida. It's not just even the West Coast. Because you know if there's a tropical storm that came through last time, it'll happen again. It's a matter of when, okay? It's all the coasts around the United States. Every single coastal area has their own issues. You're seeing indicators. What's your strategy? Take advantage of being in the know. Take advantage of being mobile. Put your house up for sale for relatively cheap. Don't try to be greedy. Find a place to live up north. If you have to wait for a disaster to happen so you can get the insurance money, make sure you have the policy to cash out. Make sure you don't get in harm's way either, okay? And then the first sign of something, you find a way to escape to higher ground, even if it's way up north, so you don't have to die in the process. Take the money and run. Start planning your new life right now, because all the coasts will be threatened with something. It's just a matter of who's going to get the next punch. The armpit of the Gulf got the punch this time. Who will be next? And up north, like here in Ohio, right, you will deal with deep freezes and lots of snow. And potentially even intermittent hurricanes during the warm season. Oh, well, no, it's a hurricane, maybe tornadoes. Intermittent hurricane. Well, yeah, I mean, you can look at storms as like a hurricane. You might even lose power during the most aggressive times. In my opinion, for me, I'd rather deal with the cold than water and heat and humidity. And so questions to ask yourself. Do you think you can handle extreme cold? Are you willing to trade in your bikini for long underwear? Okay? That's the thing, is now it's time to think about what's going on now, what the system is doing. And if you're in denial, then you'll be like the people out there outside of the Noah's Ark swimming, going like, help, save me. And they're like, no, we had to close it up. We warned you. We're in a slow boil and it's increasing, and it's a conditioning process. Those who are in the J world and you're evolved with my information, I'm so happy you're in my world, even if we don't always agree on everything. You have been conditioned for this. You have the means to save yourself during the slow boil, and you know what you need to do. And so that's why I have a lot more patience with those in the J world who don't always agree with me on everything, because I know you have the means to save yourself. And you are fucking invaluable. And you might challenge me, and I fucking respect you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be where I am today. I know I get annoyed with being challenged, but we all need to have someone challenge us and sharpen our arguments. Now, this is not an invitation for you guys to challenge me. Believe me, it's not. I allow Masa to do it because we have a history, and so I still get annoyed with her, but it's not because of her. It's because I'm like, fuck. But we have to get our arguments out. We have to allow ourselves to express. We need to. That's what we have to do. And I don't always agree with other people like John. Sometimes I don't agree with him. Sometimes I do. It's just, Audrey, I agree with mostly. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, so that's the thing, is that it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. If we mostly agree, but we have certain things where we're like, okay, that's fine. No big deal. I'm not going to convert them and say, okay, you have to believe this. But we are mostly polite. We really are. Sometimes I'm in the mood to be challenged. Sometimes I'm not. It is what it is, right? So no one means to intend on ganging up on people. Okay, so those who are pro-V and those who are anti-V, it's very easy to gang up on people. But if you comment on my page and I'm like, I don't do a V. I don't take a V. I don't need to have an immune system. And those are other people's arguments. But if they have an immune system, they wouldn't be using holistic remedies. Everybody on my Facebook who I've interacted with to such an extent, you put the miles in. We can all have a discussion, because that's all we have at this point is polite discussion. Not a big deal, but I won't take advantage of people. At this point, you have done the work. Not everybody has done the work you have done. You probably have the better chance to survive over most people. And so no matter what, I'm fucking thankful for you. I know how hard it is to kick imperialism. It's been bred into us. Activism, when you are pushing an idea or a political thought process with the intent to colonize another person's behavior and influence their decision-making on their page, that's imperialism. So activism is when you are pushing an idea or political thought process with the intent to colonize another person's behavior and influence their decision-making on their page. That's imperialism. That was forced down our throats ever since we were a child. It's very difficult to kick. It's like a disease in of itself. I've seen the error of my ways, and everyone will see the errors in their ways, and some at some point when they're ready. Or maybe they never see it, and that's fine too. Okay? And maybe there is no error in their ways, according to them, and that's also correct. And so you're okay, I'm okay. And what you say to me is not going to hurt me, because at this point, those in the J world, I've interacted with the most. We all know how to be polite. We don't insult each other. We're just having a polite conversation. Even though I have characterized polite conversation as imperialism and trying to convert someone, one can't convert someone who is steadfast in their beliefs. So what's your intention? What is their intention? To air your frustrations on people who don't give a shit. Check your intention. However, at this point, you can't convert someone who doesn't want to be converted. And I'm strong enough to say that, but I won't abuse my power and force myself on anyone, because they may not have the power, and I won't antagonize them. They may have the power, but they don't think they need to do anything different, and they don't have to. But in my J world, you have the right to antagonize me on some level. If I've interacted with you a lot, you have the right to do that. We have earned the right, and I've seen you attempt to employ some of my information in your arguments, and I think that's phenomenal. No matter what, everyone will have to face their own personal judgment day. Right now, we cannot possibly save or harm anyone else they haven't done to themselves already. We just think we have the power to save people, but we really don't. And so colonizing a person, place, or thing has the intention to destroy them eventually. We are not using force against anybody. We just have opinions. Activism is virtual imperialism. However, how we go about doing it will make a difference of how people take our information or reject it. But I won't antagonize anyone out there who has not interacted with me on a constant basis. I won't misuse my power like that. How imperialism works. Imperialism is when one country exercises power over another through various methods of control. It describes an economic, political, and social system in which one country subjugates others and brings them under its control. Okay? And that's what trolls do. They try to go and convert or use those tactics of control. and use their power, and they use groups to do that. And that's called bullies. That's what war is when you develop factions of bullies to go and try to convert someone, force convert them, and wear them down with skirmishes and skirmishes. And so, let Hurricane Lee be the indicator. You need to make a move pretty soon. Tropical cyclones training to be a Cat 4 hurricane or Cat 5 in a few days. That's how quickly things can happen in the environment. If it misses the major part of the U.S., that is your indicator to pick up and leave. I hope it misses the U.S. because that will be your sign. It's time to go. And I'm so sorry for whoever is in the path of this hurricane. Maybe they want you to see what kind of devastation it does to less populated areas, to show you what you'll be experiencing if you don't leave. The system is warning you. The system is giving you an option. I know what the system is doing. This, what if it does, what if it doesn't bullshit is just biding its time and watching you guys suffer, wondering. I know you have to be suffering, wondering, praying, hoping. I'm a fear monger because I'm the indicator letting you know how maybe it's time to do something different. And I have no intention to try to force you to do anything. It is my own stress relief. I'm getting out the trauma. I know what's coming. I am releasing my own trauma on Facebook. When you know what's about to happen to so many people who are not ready for this, and I know they resent me for this because they can't just pick up and move. I mean, they could, maybe they can't, some can, and they just need someone else to say it, giving them permission to leave. Sometimes we need to hear from somebody different before we make a move. I want to be that person who's different in your world. That's all. I'm not trying to drive you insane. I'm not the one making you afraid. The system is terrorizing you until you finally do something or not. Fear manipulation, otherwise known as fear inducement, is the ability in which to inflict a level of fear on the target using supernatural means like storms, because that's super and it's natural. Depending on the severity of the fear, the user can use this to manipulate the target, incapacitate them, or simply drive them insane. So when people are like a deer in headlights out there in Florida and they're not moving, they're just posting shit and that's it, but they're not doing anything to move, they're incapacitated. And some of them are being driven insane. They're like, holy shit. They're just like, when they're watching these forecasters posting stuff, they're like, oh my God, you're my savior. Thank you for letting us know. I'm like, okay, he's letting you know it happened last year. It's happened already this year. And another one's going to come up so early on in the season. It's only just September 6th. And the season ends November 30th. People are being driven insane by this. Okay? I'm not doing it. The system is doing it. It's so early on in the season, the playing of cat and mouse can be construed as evil, but also giving you the time to make plans if you know how to read the signals. They're telling you how powerful they are. They can direct hurricanes, and they want it anywhere they want it to go. That's why these forecasters are giving you so many possibilities, because they don't even know. They're not directing the weather. The system is. I mean, they're telling you all these different tracks. Okay, they said the average track is going up north, and there's a few tracks over here that are going to the west. But you don't know, at a moment's notice, wind directions can change, and all of a sudden, the track that's going to the west is now the average one, and the ones that are going up north are not the average ones. Winds can change just like that. There's wind farming that goes on. Wind farming. When you have wind farm, what is that? Turbines in the water, turbines in the air, directing winds. Dude, there's so much shit going on. People aren't even aware. I just learned about wind farming just yesterday because I brought on a guy on my Facebook who's new, but new to me. And he posted something about wind farm. I'm like, holy shit, there is that. Okay? And so I don't rule out dealing with hurricanes over here in Ohio. Anything is possible. I'm not sure if it can cross the Appalachians, but I don't rule out anything. Okay? I don't rule out anything. Anything is possible at this point. We're in climate fucking change. The climate is changing. And so 9/12/2023, the numbers are right. 9/11, numerology, ritualistic. Canadian and American model. These are all 7 days. These are all 7 days from now. There's 4 of them. Absolutely no one can be saying it's a fish storm. Okay? And then there's FEMA regions, and then the USA future map, the Navy map, and there's FEMA regions. Okay. And so, yeah, Anthony Haywood, he posted about farming the winds. You can read that on my Facebook if I haven't blocked you. I'm not going to go into that. It's pretty... Oh yeah, the book is telling you resistance and denial is futile. And so many people are in resistance or in denial. Most people have a hard time assimilating to change. The greater the resistance, denial, the greater the force will be. When you realize the Weather Underground was a small group of people, and then the government turned themselves into the Weather Underground and used their playbook. Remember, the government is small, the population is huge. Relative to the Weather Underground was small and the government was huge. And everything is relative. And they also had to get to the hearts and minds of the people. I mean, the strategy was not only to upset the roles of government, but also radicalize people into being anti-government. And so it's hard to say if the strategy when Bill Ayers and Bernadette Dohrn wrote that, they were writing it for themselves and for their peers, for their faction. But what they were doing is they were actually radicalized in writing a playbook for the government. Just like what I'm doing. I'm working for the government, not because I'm not getting paid by them and I'm not in an actual formal agreement, but I'm getting the word out. I'm doing the job of where they can feel absolved by doing what they do because you've been warned. All of us, conspiracy theorists and activists, have been warning people all over the place. We're doing the job of the government. And then their job is to deny it. Okay, so whether you confirm or deny it doesn't matter, it's out there. You're conditioned for whatever is going to happen. You know something's wrong, you just know what it is, and you have someone to blame, and so you're conditioned something's going to happen, and then you're told, well, hey, maybe you should not move or live on the coast. Maybe you should get out of Florida. And so when you're told this and you still don't do something, then they're absolved and they don't feel guilty. People in the activist world don't feel guilty because we've warned you guys. People over there in government using us, they warned you. It's our job to deny. It's their job to say no. And it's my job to be like, hey, I figure out where I have no fucking power here. I can only give you information, just like the government. They give you information, but they can't fucking move you. So activists and the government all work together for the same cause. We're warning people. That's pretty interesting. That's really interesting. And so I remember seeing when I talk about communication with people, okay, and finally you give up trying to convert someone or making them change their mind or make them see something broader than what you are, what they have seen or whatever. It's not up to me to convert anyone. Then you still can totally adore them and like them. And I'm okay, you're okay. My mom's bookshelf had that book, I'm okay, you're okay. I remember seeing that on her bookshelf. And so when I consider myself okay and frame others as okay, then there is no position for me or you to be inferior or superior. This is in many ways the ideal position. Here, the person is comfortable with other people and with themselves. And so there's a specific states of being. There's a child state. The natural child state contains all the basic raw emotions that we feel: anger, fear, sadness, fun, affection, love. These in turn produce basic behaviors: tantrums, rebellion, tears, hugs, and laughter. The adapted child contains all the behaviors or defense mechanisms we had to learn as children in order to survive. Behaviors that resulted from our natural child's needs not being met. These behaviors include trying to please, apologizing, being dependent, passive, anger, sulking, delaying, withdrawing, being bored. Okay, so how many adults are freaking children right now? And they've exhibited the raw emotions of anger and fear and sadness and fun and affection and love. And then when they're compensating for what they did not get in their childhood, then they're trying to please, apologizing, being dependent, passive anger, sulking, delaying, withdrawing, or being bored. So how many adapted children are out there on your Facebook in the activist world? Then you have the parent state. The parent state contains all the rules of values and morals we learn from our parents. The critical parent state has all the negative judgments, severe behaviors, giving moral lectures, being dominant, telling what to do, not allowing freedom. The supportive parent state has all the positive parental behaviors: comforting, supporting, holding, making supportive suggestions. All right? But still, you're in this parental state, and it's still manipulation. Because what are you supporting? What are you comforting? What are you holding? Okay? So it doesn't mean that's the right state to be either. Now, what about the adult state? This is the state that is not ruled by emotion. It is rational and logical, working with the facts. This is the best state in which to plan, consider, decide, and act. It It is also the only state in which we can learn something new about ourselves. That is why no one ever changes their mind during an argument. We have to be in an adult state to listen effectively to another person's point of view, to consider new facts, evaluate our behavior. We unconsciously choose our feelings. No one's making us feel anything. Once we consciously consider our feelings, we can make a conscious choice to act on them or not. To move into adult state from the parent or child position, we have to recognize our emotional state in the first place, and then using rational thought, make a conscious decision to change. And so that's the evolution. That's the J world. When you're releasing the parent state out of you and releasing the child state and the adaptive child state and the parent supportive or negative state, then when you get to the adult state, holy shit, that's when evolution happened. But if you're so full of trauma from your childhood and even as a parent or being a parent, there's no fucking way you'll be able to understand the adult state, because that would mean that you'd have to release those demons. And people function great being in a parent state or a child state because they're getting reinforcement. They're getting money to do that. You look at all over fucking YouTube. People are acting out and yelling and screaming. And we look at Alex Jones, so angry, but he's getting so much money for being a child or a parent state. Okay? So, I mean, it's not saying that you can't make money from it, but then there goes the evolution and you die in that state of existence. And so an adult state is when then you can take on evolution. Then you can save yourself. And then you realize you can't convert anyone. You can't force anyone to believe what you believe. And then you realize, wow, okay, the war is over. And so then I said, oh gosh, where did guerrilla warfare come from, right? General Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus. In the 6th century of BC, Sun Tzu, all right, proposed the use of guerrilla-style tactics in the art of war. The 3rd century BC Roman general Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus is also credited with inventing many of the tactics of guerrilla warfare through what is today called the Fabian strategy. And I remember the word guerrilla when the Honduras, some people in Honduras, the guerrillas in Honduras, when Peter Jennings was talking about them in the news back when I was a kid in the 80s. Okay, that's the first time I heard the word guerrilla. Guerrilla warfare has been used by various factions throughout history, and is particularly associated with revolutionary movements and popular resistance against invading or occupying armies. Guerrilla tactics focus on avoiding head-on confrontation with enemy armies, typically due to inferior arms of forces, and instead engage in limited skirmishes with the goal of exhausting adversaries and forcing them to withdraw. See also attrition warfare. Organized guerrilla groups often depend on the support of either the local population or foreign backers who sympathize with guerrilla group efforts. And so when you think about what I'm doing by withdrawing and not resisting, it's not because, I'm giving up my fight to save humanity. It means I already know that I'm outnumbered. I'm outsmarted, outnumbered, out whatever. And I know where my power lays within is saving myself. I can't change what the government's doing. I can't change the changes that are going on. I can't even change other people to save themselves. Okay? And they used guerrilla warfare tactics, and all of us have been subjected to guerrilla warfare tactics by our own peers, by our friends, our family, our government. And when you realize that's what was used, and you realize that's what is being used, then you have to withdraw to save yourself. I'm not that stubborn to die for my beliefs. I'm not willing to die for my beliefs. I believe in the life of humans, but I have to save myself. I can't save anyone else. And so I live for my beliefs. And I will assimilate to whatever and do the best I can the next 7 years to dodge fire, floods, and FEMA. And so then, Charles Manson, he wanted to be a singer, and he couldn't be a singer. And so, Charles Manson, he was brought up with knowledge. He was brought up in violence. He was brought up in manipulation. He knew how to manipulate women. He wanted to be a singer and get the word out that way. They wouldn't let him be famous. Sharon Tate represented everything that was going to take down the world in the future. hot chicks and all their families, right? And all their children. But she's also representing somebody who denied him access to the club of singer-songwriters because he wanted to be a singer to get the word out. Instead of channeling his frustrations in another way, he destroyed what he could not have, what he could not belong to. He went right back to the tools that were taught to him when it came to forcing people into submission. And so you saw the last 7 years how I dealt with people challenging me, how I dealt with bullies, how I dealt with guerrilla warfare tactics, using the phone, using the government, using people on Facebook, YouTube, articles, journalists, using everybody against me. And, you know, if I was exposed to a lot of violence in my childhood, who knows what I would have done. But I wasn't. And I also released most of my demons. And so even though I had maybe tendencies of like, holy shit, you know, this knife is so weird. I don't even know where the hell my thing with knives came from way back when. I couldn't tell you. Okay. Maybe it was because I saw my mother cut herself by mistake because she was slicing bagels and she cut herself. And that was traumatic. And so that's probably why I have an aversion with knives, and then coupled with other stuff. And so yes, visual, that's right. That's a fucking man. That's crazy. Because that was traumatizing. When someone's cutting something and they cut themselves, holy shit. And then you have all this programming swirling around in you. Oh my God. So that's where it came from. Okay. So anyways, I released those demons. And so then what did I do? I channeled my way of forcing people to submit through intimidation, through the law. Now you can't abuse the justice system, but I was still trying to get people to stop fucking with me and stop writing fucked up articles and make me out to be like some whatever. But that was something I had to go through. And I went through the court system many times. And finally, I won 2 cases. The other one, well, it was dropped. And no one wanted to go up against me in the court of law. No one did. I would go somewhere to the court and they wouldn't show up. So I won the case. I would go to another court case and they would never fucking show up. I won the case again by default. Okay, fine. I will fight with everything I have as far as intellectually, the justice system, and doing things legally. But I will never put my hands on anybody. I will never bully anybody. And I will not lob grenades back at people. I will not try to convert them. Even though they will go and cross boundaries, they will go and say shit wherever they want to say shit, and that's fine. But I'm not engaging. And that's the thing, is when you don't have violence in your background, you're not watching violent things as a child, and you know, and you're releasing those demons. And if you did, you don't have to end up like a Charles Manson, microbially, or even like, holy shit, because there are serial killers out there. There are people who are very predatory out there, and they'll act upon it on Facebook, and then, you know, through their bullies, they may not go as far as actually hurting somebody, but some people don't even get on Facebook. They just hurt people they have access to, that allow access to them. That's why women have to be very careful out there. There's so many predators out there. So don't make yourself an easy target. So anyways, so I channeled my frustration through studying, through the court system, through studying, and through speaking. And then learning and developing. And what was my saving grace? The fact that I did not watch any of the horror movies as a child. I did not watch any horror movies as a child. My mother knew what she was doing. And this whole thing with the knife, yeah, because I remember that memory, and it was so devastating to see her bleeding from that knife when she was cutting bagels. Oh my God. That's where it came from. I wonder where that came from. So, human programming is real. Now it's time for you guys to deprogram if you want to save yourself. You have to release those demons. If not, I don't know. Good luck. But there it is. That's the world you live in. Bye.